Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin by asking you a question. Is there anything good, any iota of good thing in the Kenya Kwanza government? Let us answer this question without any feelings, without trying to follow our party feelings or tribal feelings. And the reason I'm asking this question is because today there were two reports that are very disturbing that I read. One is that the energy minister, Davis Chirchir, is revealing to the nation that if we thought that we had seen it all when it comes to the prices of petroleum products, it has knocked about 200 shillings in the history of our nation, then we are wrong. Because he was saying that with the ongoing fight between Israel and Hamas, the prices of petroleum products will rise to 300 Kenya shillings per liter. And that is really very worrying. The second report that I read today, and this is in Business Daily, it is being said, and let us just read this, that layoffs rise to COVID levels on high taxes and fuel costs. And very briefly, it's recorded here that Kenya's unemployment crisis deepens further in October after companies cut jobs at a rate last witnessed at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when businesses resorted to layoffs, salary reductions, and unpaid leaves to stay afloat. Basically, the last time we witnessed such a crisis was when we reached the peak of the corona pandemic. You all know, if you are not only in Kenya, because corona rocked the whole world. If you are not affected, then you have relatives or friends who are really affected. There were a lot of layoffs. Some people were called and they were told, we don't want to kick you out of the job space. So what you're going to do, you're going to take a third, a quarter, or a half of your salary. So you had to weigh. Instead of going home without anything, can I take a quarter? If you are earning maybe 100,000 that you're told, you'll be earning 20,000. And maybe the house that you're residing in is worth 20,000 Kenya shillings. So you had to weigh. It was one of the lowest point we ever reached as a nation, and that was a natural disaster. So it pains me, I don't know whether it also pains you, that we are in the same situation again in the Kenya Kwanza government, and this time around, it is not because of any natural disaster. No corona. It is about the plan that has failed to work. And if you dig deep to understand where I'm coming from, I want us to listen to William Ruto when he was campaigning in just prior to the 2022 elections, and he blamed the powers that be then that they didn't have a plan, they didn't know how to take care of the Kenyan youths. And in fact, William Ruto said then that unemployment rate for the youth was a crisis.
Harambe! Harambe! UDA! In fact, it is a national crisis, the youth unemployment in our nation. And we must put it as a priority. Kwa mipango yetu yote, haiwezi kuwa ati tunasema twende tubadilishe katiba, tuongeze mamlaka ya rais, na vijana wetu hawa hawana ajira, wanahangaika na wanasumbuliwa na madawa na wanasumbuliwa na uhalifu, na dunia hiyo inarudi nyuma. Na tukiungana tutapata uwezo wa kushughulikia yale changamoto yanatukumba kama wa Kenya. We can deal firmly with unemployment. We can deal firmly with matters to do with our business environment, and we can deal firmly with matters of availing food for every family. Mambo ya kubadilisha katiba, kuongeza mamlaka ya rais, kuongeza vyeo ya viongozi, kuongeza mamlaka ya viongozi kugawana, itangojea kwanza. Ngojeni kwanza tubadilishe uchumi ya Kenya.
After that very dramatic speech, promising without blinking, 1 year down the line, instead of even maintaining the status quo, instead of even maintaining the businesses and the jobs that were there, the situation is deteriorating. Employers have decided to lay off employees, and it is not because of anything, because it is recorded very categorically. It is because of the high taxes and fuel costs. You all know that a few months ago, William Ruto forced the parliament to pass the Finance Bill 2023. And as a result, IPRA decided to raise the prices of petroleum products. And you all know that when you raise the prices of petroleum products, it affects all the other services and goods, because that is how production is going to increase. The cost of production is going to increase. The cost of transporting it from the producers even to the wholesalers, from the wholesalers to the retailers, and finally to the consumers. And all this burden is passed to the final consumer. And that's what I'm saying, that it is really very sad. If you don't feel it, then I don't know which nation you are living in, or you have the heart of a beast. Now, I've listened to many Kenya Kwanza adherents telling us that we should give William Ruto some time. But when you are giving a government time, you must be seeing some signs and symptoms that there would be some light at the end of the tunnel. How do you tell us to give this government time when the time that the government has been given is full of more promises, is full of campaigns for 2027, is full of blame game? A government that is serious, that wants to change the lives of her citizens, must shun from blame game, must call all the economic think tanks and decide to chart their way forward on what they want to do. So you cannot give a government time when we receive such reports that people are being laid off just because of the plans that our government has put forward. And they are raising taxes, they are removing subsidies that were supposed to even to cushion Kenyans from poverty. And this is coming at a time when you can imagine you're losing your job. At the same time, the prices of basic commodities are rising, soaring very high. And you still hear, cases of corruption from the very government that is supposed to protect Kenyan taxpayers. I've always wondered whether Kenyans will ever learn. In social media, I have seen people crying full, and they're saying that they were duped, they were hoodwinked to vote for William Samoei Ruto. But I'm still convinced beyond reasonable doubt that if you go to Mount Kenya and Rift Valley, because those are the places that largely voted for William Ruto, and you present Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, people will still vote following their tribal affiliation and party affiliation. And that is why sometimes when I see people crying, I just feel that we are, the co-authors of our own misfortune. But then, what will William Ruto tell people when it comes to 2027 campaigns? What will he tell people? Because I understand that our president can still face us without blinking, and he will still tell us, because if even now he's got that audacity to still keep on promising tumetenga, tumepanga. When you listen to our president speak, you really get pissed off. I'm one person who believes that even if William Ruto ascended to that highest office through the back door, he should have decided to work for Kenyans in such a way that when you look at him, you say, okay, maybe elections were stolen, but William Ruto is working. But in a situation where you are being accused that you stole elections and you still make life difficult for your citizens, then it is very pathetic. We have a government that is listening to the colonial masters. People are asking this question. When King Charles visited Kenya, who was meeting the bills? And they feel that Kenya must have used a lot of money to maintain, the king for the few days that he was in the country. People are still asking, how much does it cost the government for the prayers that they conduct every day? Because I've seen a fleet of vehicles whenever the president and the deputy president are moving to go and worship somewhere. And those worship occasions have been turned into political talks. The only saving grace today is that Raila is quiet and so is Uhuru, so they find it even humiliating to start talking about them. But then, there was a plan when William Ruto was campaigning, and he said, I have a plan for everything. A plan to employ the youth. A plan to increase, job employment. A plan to ensure that we put food on the table for every family. The plan has not worked. Maybe there was a plan, but we don't have the implementation plan. Maybe they planned, but they didn't know how to implement their plans. And it's very, very pathetic, ladies and gentlemen, because we will live together here. If you're not affected, then a friend of yours, a sister or a brother or a father. I can only imagine that someone has been retrenched, someone has been laid off, and schools, after December, schools will open. And you have someone maybe going to Form 1. I mean, you wonder, where would you start from? Even if you don't have someone who's going to the secondary school, you live in one of the rooms in town or in the cities, and you have to pay rent if you don't have your own house. How do you even maintain? Where do you start from? And that's the reason why, without any feelings, I have a feeling that the president has failed. I have a feeling that the Kenya Kwanza government has failed. And this failure is very intentional, because I'm trying to look at the Kibaki government then, which they are trying to say that they want to ensure that they get back the economy to where Kibaki left it. And Kibaki was very serious. He didn't have the loudest rhetorics that we hear today. He didn't have to blame the former regime. He decided that let bygones be bygones and we start afresh. But when I listened to our deputy president, when I listened to Ndindi Nyoro, they keep on blaming the previous government. Today I was looking at one of the tweets from David Ndii, who is the chief economic, the chairman of the Council of Economics in this government. And he's busy insulting people. When people ask questions, he's insulting them. And I wonder, really? He's being maintained by taxpayers' money, yet he has the guts to insult the very, very people who employ him. And it tells you the attitude with which the government is carrying itself. The government is full of itself. The government does not care about the hustlers. The government does not care about anything. They care about the US, they care about the UK, and they care about themselves. I think Kenyans must learn something, so that next time we are presented with such a golden opportunity, let us not be reactive, that you elect bad leaders and you expect them. You expect to have good, once you've elected bad leaders, you don't expect good leadership to come from bad leaders. And so Kazi kwetu, ladies and gentlemen, this report is really painful to me because I can only imagine what some families feel now. And the employers have got no choice because the cost of production has just gone high.